The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing very well as we get through the dog days of the offseason here. Counting down the days personally a little bit till we get to at least the FIBA World Cup in a couple weeks. That should be fun, getting to watch that level of basketball on a daily basis. But yeah, we're hanging in there. How are you?
Yeah, we're in what I would call the internal development normally time of year, but that's what we did in the previous years. But it's hard to do something like that this year with the lack of young players on the team anymore, and not a lot of returning players as well. It's just a team that's had so many changes that we've had to change up how we cover them this time of year. But I'm excited because we had an idea for this episode that I'm excited to talk about. But we did have Devin Booker sort of trending on Twitter today, and that's where we got the idea from, and that came from Klay Thompson talking about Devin Booker and his experience last season with Devin Booker on the Podcast P podcast, which, by the way, is a hilarious name for a podcast. And also, Paul George does a good player podcast. Is he the only current player that does an actual interesting podcast right now?
He's the only one. He seems to be getting all the best guests as of late, and by late
helps,
I mean the last 12 months. I don't know. Other players like CJ McCollum has had a pod for a super long time. Have you ever actually listened to his? Because I haven't.
I know. I mean, and that's kind of the point, I guess.
Draymond's pod, I only listen to. I hate listen to certain.
It seems insufferable. Yeah, it seems just insufferable
to certain clips that come across my social media feeds. And for other guys, it's like not everyone needs a podcast. I know it's ironic for us to be saying that as podcast guys.
Well, that's funny, yeah.
But yeah, not everyone needs a podcast. Paul George does seem to be doing a pretty good job. Props to him. He has a lot of great guests.
Yeah, I think there are current NBA players that are afraid to say something that'll mess with their money too much. Oftentimes, NBA players become a lot more interesting after they've retired, like Jeff Teague, who's having a moment right now that he's just confident enough to say whatever he wants because he's not in the NBA anymore. But what Klay Thompson said today, it was a reference to the moment with Devin Booker when the Suns played the Warriors in the regular season, one of the most exciting games of the season, I would say, where Devin Booker was just kicking his ass, or as he says, busting his ass in that game, and Klay Thompson started flashing the number 4 at him, saying he has 4 rings, and then Devin Booker went on to win that game and kind of did it by going at Klay Thompson over and over and over again. Klay Thompson had a bad game. And then that play, it kind of played out on social media interestingly. And I noticed Klay Thompson even referenced the way that history sort of looked back on that moment. And it didn't go well for Klay Thompson. I think he took a lot of heat for doing that, which is funny because he earned 4 rings. You have the right to talk about it. But he regrets doing it, and he had a lot of praise for Devin Booker in that conversation, which, by the way, I think mirrored how Devin Booker talked about Klay Thompson immediately after that game, where it seems like those are two guys who really respect each other a lot. What did you think when you saw that clip?
I was really surprised, to be honest. Dare I say I gained a lot of... And I've never hated Klay Thompson, for the record. But I think I gained a lot of respect for him after seeing that clip, just because when you talk about NBA players, these guys, they're so competitive. First of all, it's like normal people just can't understand what it means, what these guys need to do sometimes to amp themselves up and be in that hyper-competitive space and keep themselves there, too, for 90 or 120 minutes, however long a game is, right? It's like they do certain things to keep themselves in that mindset. But then when they come off the court, it doesn't necessarily, these aren't necessarily lasting rivalries. Sometimes you see those lasting rivalries that persist. You see players in their body language and they really hate each other on and off the court. And I think we're going to talk maybe about some of those later in this episode. But for the most part, most of these guys go at each other's throats, and then they leave it on the court, and they come off the court and they're normal people. I was just surprised at this with Klay, because normally the way that players talk in interviews is there's so much like bravado to it and kind of just like pumping out their chests. And Klay wasn't like that at all. He actually, came at it with a very humble attitude and said that he was in his feelings, as he put it. And it basically admitted that he was wrong. And I was thinking to myself, like, if Draymond came with this attitude, like even once in his life, because Draymond is a guy who has never admitted that he was wrong in any situation ever. If Draymond did that, I would probably be a lot more confident in the Warriors' ability to win a championship this season. Right. So I was really impressed with Klay's ability to kind of keep the chemistry together there and just be honest.
Yeah, I like Klay Thompson. And I did think that it's just these guys clearly like each other. Like, they're just players who compete really hard. And I liked that Klay did that, because I think it fired up Devin Booker and it made a regular season game more interesting. I wish that stuff like that happened more often.
I will just say it's easy to say that when you win the game, though, because I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't cursing him out at the time. Like, when I saw,
that's what makes it fun.
He puts up the 4 fingers, and I'm thinking, go fuck yourself, Klay. Like, come on, you're shooting 1 for 14 in this game. You're breaking every 3 you're taking. You're washed on defense. But you're right. That is what makes it fun. It gets fans engaged. It keeps us entertained in the game, and these players are entertainers at the end of the day. They know how it is.
Yeah, it's like a heel turn in wrestling. He just became the villain in the middle of the game, and it gave you something very specific to root for. And also, it clearly fired up Devin Booker, and in some ways people saw that as just sort of a taking the reins of that shooting guard conversation, which, to be frank, Klay Thompson hasn't really owned in a while, but probably had a right to say that he was the best shooting guard in the league or close to it for a while. And I think Devin Booker kind of stole that moniker from him. And if you want to use that game as the symbolic game of it, then you can. But it got me thinking, and there's another thing I want to add to this, because this is something we haven't talked about yet either. There was a apocryphal story told by Brian Scalabrine recently as a story related to Bradley Beal. The story was that Bradley Beal played a junior in high school, I believe Cooper Flagg is, at Jason Tatum's camp, and that it went badly for Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal was talking shit to Cooper Flagg, who's a junior in high school. And, Scalabrine implied that it got really heated.
A very highly touted recruit, obviously, by the way, for anyone who's not familiar with Cooper Flagg yet. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the next big recruit, I think, that we're going to talk about a lot, and looks great. But it turns out that story apparently was just a lie or some sort of weird exaggeration of the truth, because both Bradley Beal and Cooper Flagg have since said that it just wasn't true and that they never even played one-on-one, according to Cooper Flagg, which, I don't know. Do you have any comments on that before I transition here?
Man, it's first of all, what's Scalabrine's deal, I guess, is what we start with there. I can only think of theories as to why he would spread this fake news, and none of them look great for him. Do you have any theories as to why Scalabrine did this?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one obvious one that kind of people talk about immediately when this story comes up.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm
following you.
He's a Boston guy. And we'll leave it there. Cooper Flagg is, it might be the next great white hope. We'll see. Should be a good basketball player.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. I think that's where a lot of people's minds went first. It's just like, why make this story up if both of these guys are saying this is not true? By the way, Cooper Flagg, obviously, it doesn't suit him to make enemies before he's even stepped on an NBA court, before he's even drafted. So I think that's a fair aspect of the story as well.
He does talk, like, I watched some clips of him and the stuff going around online of Cooper Flagg. He looks great. But he does talk a lot of shit. Like, he's clearly constantly trying to fire himself up. He's an animated player, and maybe there's just some sort of lines that got crossed in a story that happened at that camp, and whatever. It got to, through a game of telephone, got to Scalabrine wrong.
That's entirely possible. Maybe Scalabrine just, like you said, was playing that game of telephone, and he was not necessarily being malicious in his intentions. Of course, we don't know. Ultimately, I think the only thing I really want to say here that I do believe is unfortunate is it just centers around another discussion of the responsibilities of journalists, and if you consider yourself like a real media outlet versus not a real media outlet, and what gets shared this time of year. The unfortunate thing about this story is that the story of Cooper Flagg cooking Bradley Beal, the fake story, last I checked on Twitter, had 20 million views, the original tweet. And the retraction of that story, the video itself of Cooper Flagg speaking to the camera and saying this did not happen, had less than 1 million views on Twitter. So it's like, that's not just sports, that's everything.
Right.
But it's like you put some BS out there, and then, okay, great, like you retracted it, but you retracted it far too late, and 5% of the original audience is even seeing that retraction, and now the other 95% are left to go off in the world and think that actually happened. And if you're a real, quote-unquote, real media organization, then you have a responsibility not to allow that to happen. But that's the world we live in.
It is funny that NBA players are just really gossipy. Like, they like those kind of dramatic stories. But it all got me thinking about the concept of who's got beef with Suns players, because this is a new team, you know, essentially top to bottom, outside of two players with a few role players sprinkled in that are returning as well. But most of it is new. You know, there was a moment when Chris Paul joined the team where I thought, okay, now the Warriors are my new enemy, where I had to learn about, by the way, the myriad of beef that Chris Paul had with other NBA players. And now he's gone. And I think a lot of that went with him. I don't know how you feel about Scott Foster now, but that's an example.
Yeah,
so
still,
what I want to do,
still not a fan, just for the record.
Yeah, still not a fan. I think
still
it's
not
fair.
a fan.
But I want to go through some of the more prominent Suns players and talk about some of these guys. And maybe we could even talk about how much of it is real, how much of it isn't.
Sure.
But I want to start with teams, or even, I guess you could call them fan bases, that have a problem with the Suns right now. And I'm curious to know, just saying that alone, because we haven't discussed this together yet.
Sure.
What's the first fan base you think of?
We're just talking fan bases right now.
Fan bases or teams? Yeah.
At each other's throats. Or teams. Okay, that's fine. I think public enemy number one would be still the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think it's still the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Denver Nuggets are obviously on that list as well, but I think in fairly kicking our ass this year, earned a lot of respect, at least from, like, you know, people who can think somewhat rationally or objectively, earned a lot of respect, and the basketball players too, like, as that is a good basketball team.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit different, even though Dallas beat us in the playoffs as well. It's a little bit different with the Dallas Mavericks, as kind of, when they try to talk trash, it's an undeserved reputation that they're trying to flout, especially after the way they flamed out, not even out of the playoffs. They didn't even make the playoffs last season. And I think, additionally, there are specific rivalries between our star players and their star players, and I'm sure you're going to get into, that I think that's not the type of thing that I was referencing before with, like, Booker and Klay, where they can act one way on the court and then off the court they can be buddies. I'll just say it flat out. Like, I think Booker and Luka actually dislike each other. I think those are two people who actually dislike each other, maybe off the court, or at least, like, they don't respect the way that the other plays basketball, which is a bit of a difference from kind of some of the other rivalries we're going to talk about. So it's Dallas still number one for me.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that series turns Maverick fans into COVID deniers. That's kind of how deep that thing runs for them. I think Mavericks are number one. I think they're first of all, it was their last victory. They missed the playoffs after that, so they're going to really hold on to that last victory as long as possible until they have a new playoff series to go by. We're on the Suns end of that. I think the Mavericks and the Nuggets are the two obvious ones, and I think the other two that you have to talk about are just the other two teams the Suns have played in the playoffs. Well, I guess there's three teams if you include the Pelicans here, but the two teams that I thought of first were the Lakers and the Clippers. Obviously, I think there's something with the Lakers that is more deep-seated in a long history of playoff battles that have happened over the course of years and years and years. Basically, every generation of every team has gone against the Lakers in the playoffs in one way or another. The Suns obviously defeating them after Anthony Davis went down, and them holding on to that as well. And then the Clippers, the Suns have beat them twice. The funny part is, I don't feel as though, and maybe I'm wrong, outside of Patrick Beverley, I don't feel as though the Suns fans or even players hold any animosity towards that team.
Again, are we
even
talking
though there
about
have
the
been
team,
two playoff?
or are we talking about the fans?
Either way, like I don't consider them a rival. Do you?
No, because we're 2-0, and yeah, it's difficult. I mean, look, I'll be honest in saying that not every player. Maybe I would feel differently about this if Kawhi Leonard was healthy in every single game of both of those series. He wasn't.
Right.
So it's just harder to feel that way about, I don't know, like who have we really gone against in those two series? Guys like Russell Westbrook and who just aren't the same tier of player, to be quite frank. And on the fan base side of things, there aren't that many Clippers fans. I mean, just to be
You've done this rant before, and I enjoy it.
Is it a rant?
I don't know. It's true. I guess.
What have I said before? I mean, there just aren't that many of them.
The presence of the Lakers fans compared to the Clippers fans is overwhelming.
When
the
Lakers,
difference is overwhelming.
Up until a couple of years ago, I would even say, and granted, I'm not a local, but I would even say, like, from my outside perspective of like maybe the bubble season, maybe even the season when the Suns went to the finals. The Suns would play home games against the Lakers, and the Lakers fans would turn out in such droves that it could feel like a road game at times. Like it could feel close to 50-50. I don't think it's that way right now because I think we've seen a general revitalization of the Phoenix fan base because the team is so good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But certainly, like go back further than that, like 2015 to 2019, it's like, Lakers fans would dominate those crowds.
I remember a very specific game where who was it that got a triple-double? One of the Suns players got a triple-double, and the Suns beat the Lakers, and it was mostly Lakers fans in there.
Uh-huh.
And I remember just cackling at how sad they were.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't go very...
And
Brandon
I'm
Knight,
sure
that's who it was. Brandon Knight had a triple-double
Brandon
against
Knight.
the Lakers.
Maybe,
by the way.
maybe
Easily forgettable, apparently.
One of my least favorite eras of Suns history there, for sure. I did not enjoy Brandon Knight in a Suns uniform.
Can you believe he even had a triple-double?
Yeah, that's wild.
He was cooking in that game, man. Every once in a while, he was good.
I could name the number of, or I could count the number of good games Brandon Knight had in a Suns uniform on one hand, probably. But yeah, that's just, you probably had good tickets to that game too. I
did. I was really close.
For very cheap. But the Clippers, conversely, don't have that fan base that travels in packs.
No, absolutely.
Even when you go there, you can kind of be the fan base that bullies them and shoves them around. And even when I think about online, like there are obnoxious fans online in every fan base.
Of every team, yeah.
The Clippers don't have that many that I know of. They've got a couple of beat reporters, and that's it. I can't think of any fans I really have beef with the Clippers. It's kind of unusual.
Is the Pelicans a rivalry now? Or is it turning into one?
No. I mean, if they play each other again in the playoffs, it could develop into that. That's another one, actually, where I felt more animosity between the two fan bases at the time than I did between the players on the court. I felt mutual respect between all of the players on the court in that series with one notable exception, and I think that's Jose Alvarado. who I think was kind of just treated as like a pest.
If they play another time, that'll be a big difference maker into that, whether or not you can consider that a rivalry. Chris Paul being gone impacts that. I think you're right. But there's two games in particular in the regular season that came after those playoff matchups. One, the Zion Williamson dunk.
That's a good point.
The game was already decided. Two, Devin Booker playing the entire second half against the Pelicans. The Suns were down 24 points. Booker scored 58 points and brought the Suns back to win that game in one of his greatest games of his career in the regular season, in my opinion. And clearly one that was important to him with the amount of effort that he expended.
You're making a compelling case there. And look, New Orleans, we talked about it last week, right? First of all, I called them a contender, so we'll see if that holds up. But also not a team that changed much this season. They're bringing back basically the same core 7 or 8 guys. So there's going to be history between them and Booker.
Yeah.
But also to your point earlier, there's not a lot of history between those guys and Durant, or between those guys and Beal, or between those guys and anyone else on our roster, frankly. So like, could those feelings develop? They could. But I think we're still very much in the discovery stages of like, who is this team? What is their identity? How much are they going to get into other teams' heads? How much are they going to be reckless and just be instigators? I think we have a couple of guys on our roster who you could immediately point at and say they could fulfill those roles. But we don't really know who that is yet. We certainly don't have a Chris Paul figure. We certainly don't have a Jay Crowder figure. I'm pretty confident in saying that.
I have him here. We're going to talk about him in a minute, but I'm going to say it now just so people have it on their radar. I think Drew Eubanks is the guy who's going to be if you want to call it the dirtiest, you can call it that. But I have a feeling he's going to be the guy that's getting into the scraps with other teams, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because I have something to remind you of there. But what I did in order to prepare for this one, and by the way, I thought this will be like a 5-minute conversation. It's not going to be, because I have a huge list of stuff that I want to get to with you, is I wrote down every player I could remember Devin Booker having a beef with, or at least getting into it with in his career. This is just off of memory. And then I want to talk about which one of these are real, which one of these aren't, and maybe even like not officially rank them, but like talk about the ones that are legit and the ones that aren't. And then I have some for Kevin Durant, I have some for Bradley Beal, and I have some for DeAndre, and then maybe Drew Eubanks we'll talk about at the end there. So let's go. I want to go through this hilarious list for Devin Booker first of all, and you tell me if I missed any, and we can talk about some of them individually. Luka Doncic, Gorgie Jang.
Yep, that's the instant one that will always stay in my head. Who, by the way, is no longer in the NBA, right?
Right.
So
he's some of them aren't. I included some people that aren't. Dylan Brooks, Patrick Beverly. And I'm curious to think if you, so you agree with that. Okay. Paul George.
What was his deal with Paul George? Why can't I remember?
Well, first of all, Suns fans seem to think they don't like each other, which I've never really thought of. But I went back and I looked at it, and they have gotten into it with each other in the middle of games in the past. And I don't know, maybe there was a lot of love there that we don't know about. Devin Booker being the guy who doesn't do any interviews that he's not required to do doesn't make it easy to fully understand his personality.
Devin Booker has turned down requests to be on the Playoff podcast or Podcast P 6 times, and that was far too many times for Paul George.
Enes Kanter.
That's a classic.
And then these two have question marks next to him, along with Paul George, because I'm not convinced about Paul George. But I'm hoping that if there's more to this that I don't know about, that Suns fans fill in the blanks for us, because I'm really curious. Jokic, do you think there's something there?
I think they get into it again in the heat of battle. I think Booker, rightly so, is really freaking frustrated by Jokic because he's so physical. He doesn't always play fair. I think he's, largely using the rule book to his advantage. Like, I don't necessarily fault him for it, but is also a guy who in the past we've seen lash out. Like when we were kicking the Nuggets' ass in 2021, and he gave Campaign a lashing. So there are reasons for them to get into it. I don't think he thinks Jokic is like a bad person or a completely dirty basketball player, though.
And okay, so the last one that I have question marks next to is there a Pelicans player that we could add to this? Because the question is it Ingram who had because Ingram had that post after the Suns played the Pelicans in the regular season. I won't say what he posted. You can look it up, but it was on Instagram. If you want to read that one, feel free to find it. Or Alvarado, but the Alvarado thing seems to be entirely Chris Paul related, right?
Alvarado is 90% Chris Paul related. Again, I don't think the players respect him as being on their level, so it's just different. He's like a gnat. He's this annoying sidebar thing.
So I don't think it's Zion either. So is there no Pelicans player that we could add to this list?
Yeah, I don't think there is. It's certainly,
I don't think so either.
It's certainly not CJ either. They didn't appreciate the showiness of that Zion dunk. It's interesting that you brought that up because I'd forgotten about that too. But I don't think they hate Zion Williamson either. They're certainly not going to fight him. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. So there's not an instant Pelicans player who comes to mind.
Gorgie Jang is the funniest name on this list, right?
Well, that or I was going to say, how dare you for dead naming? You didn't even call him Enes Freedom.
Oh, that's true.
You're supposed to use his name, his legal name now, which is Enes Freedom, not Enes Kanter. I still think pick and roll at 00 every time, which is infamously what Book said after that scrap with Enes Kanter.
Okay, so I did my research. Before you move on from that one, so I looked up clips of a lot of these initial times where he got into it with these guys.
A lot of nostalgia riding.
Do you want to know who the center was when he said pick and roll at 0-0 every time?
You mean for the Suns?
Yeah.
What year was this?
So the center that was setting the pick for Devin Booker. I don't know, five years ago?
2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Alex Len, Tyson Chandler.
Greg Monroe.
Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, how funny it was when I looked up that clip in the purple jerseys and I see Greg Monroe.
Talk about pot meat kettle right there. Yikes.
Yeah, it was perfect. Anyway, so yeah, that one is what it is.
Did we trade, as my memory failing me, did we trade like a first round pick for Greg Monroe or something?
No, it was part of the Bledsoe trade, I think.
It was part of the Bledsoe trade. That's what it was. Yeah, he was just some dead salary. Yeah. Exactly. Are you sure about that? Now I got to look it up.
I could be wrong. But I think that's who else did the Suns get back? I guess that was Brandon Knight.
Yeah, it was part of the
Yeah.
Bledsoe. Bang on, November 7th, 2017. Yeah. Traded by the Milwaukee Bucks with a 2018 second-round pick and a 2020 first-round pick. Oof, to the Phoenix Suns for Eric Bledsoe. Do you know who that 2020 first-round pick became that the Suns traded in a separate deal they did not use?
2020 first-round pick.
You're probably not going to get it. It's just a little bit unfortunate. Became Desmond Bane.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's kind of...
I did not remember that.
Kind of brutal.
That's brutal, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of brutal. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, who did the Suns trade it for? Was that the one that they traded for Mikal Bridges?
God, I can't even remember anymore. We're going to really get down into the wormhole here.
It's that time of year. We don't have to.
Traded by the Phoenix Suns to the Boston Celtics for Aaron Baines and Ty Jerome. We moved up for Ty Jerome and also got Aaron Baines. Aaron Baines was quite good for us in that.
Yeah, he was really good. And he started for a lot of games that season. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so thinking about these guys, I'm going to read it again. And by the way, if I've forgotten any, people listening, send them to me. Or if you think of any, Sam. Luka, Jang, Brooks. By the way, Dylan Brooks. I just think they don't like each other. By the way, I didn't know if that was like, yeah. So I don't know if there's any specific moments you can think of, but anytime I watch them play against each other, and this is Brooks with a lot of guys, to be fair, there's just a little something extra there when they play each other. Patrick Beverley, because of the playoffs, and I think in particular, the way he was taunting Devin Booker after breaking his nose, as if that was good. Paul George, which to me still is a question mark, so I'm curious if people agree with that. And then we'll say his freedom. And then we'll leave Jokic and Ingram or Alvarado off of that list. Okay. Luka's the only one that is like 100% for sure real, right?
Luka is 100,000.
Maybe Beverly?
Yeah, sure, Beverly. But yeah. Beverly's, again, in the Alvarado tier of he's barely a basketball player. He's clinging on for his NBA life at this point. Luka he's public enemy A, B, and C for these guys. I really think he is. The Luka special. You could hear it when Booker in his voice when he said the Luka special. That animosity is real. It's not just heat of the moment. We're in the game. It's the spirit of competition type stuff. It's actually, I have no respect for how you grift your way to points on a basketball court.
But of all these players, the person he got the closest to actually physically fighting was Gorgie Jang.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he was like 20.
When they met
maybe younger, actually.
Tried to meet in the tunnel.
Yeah, that was so funny. Okay, so for sure, Booker's got beef. And this list could expand going forward, I think, right?
For sure. And this is another reason why Dallas remains such a big rival for us and why I'm going to, really look forward to our games with them this season. And then we'll see. I mean, they need to actually make the playoffs for it to become a little bit more of a certified rivalry beyond that. We'll see if they have what it takes.
All right, let's talk about Kevin Durant, because this one was kind of interesting, and I went back through the history books. I was Googling, trying to find as much as I could possibly find for Kevin Durant. And like I said for all of these players, I would love to hear if anyone listening thinks of people that we left off the list. But I actually had some trouble with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant gets along with everybody relatively well, from what I can tell. Just has a lot of respect for players in the NBA. Now, there's one really obvious one. We'll go through these ones one by one. And that is a former NBA player that he clearly has beef with. Do you know who I'm going to bring up?
No. Off the top.
Charles Barkley.
Former NBA player. Yeah, sure. No. That's totally fair.
That's got to be the guy he has the biggest beef with right now, right?
Yeah, that guy. I mean, Chuck is the one who has criticized him. Well, I don't know. A lot of people have criticized KD openly, but he's gone back and forth with Chuck for some reason. Like, he's directly responded to comments from Chuck in a way that I'm not sure he always has with other media personalities. Like the Skips, or these aren't former NBA players, but like the Skips or the Stephen A's. I don't know. I think KD mostly lets those guys' criticism slide off him, or at least he doesn't respond to it.
Yeah, I think it bothers him that Charles is a former NBA player talking the way that he talks.
Right. It's just a little bit different when a Hall of Famer does it, to be honest.
I mean, KD's more likely to go at a random Twitter user than Skip.
Sure.
And here's one that was obvious, and I think that is just fully gone now, and that's Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything serious there. People are going to continue to hype up matchups between the two of those, but yeah, I don't think there's anything there. Do you have Kyrie on your list too? Can we shuffle that
for KD?
Yeah, I just want to shuffle that into there's nothing there. There's only
okay. Yeah, I agree.
There's only like love between those two guys, I think, regardless of that.
There's no reason to believe anything else at this point. There's been nothing that's been reported.
I think it's almost in the same tier, maybe not quite as in the same tier as the Russ stuff, but one where fans project a lot of their own feelings towards Kyrie. And I get it. I'm not a fan of Kyrie Irving either, but I think it's just a lot of projection on the part of fans of trying to like drive a wedge between those two guys that doesn't actually exist. So like, if you're selling, for instance, the Dallas rivalry as, it's not only Book versus Luka, it's also KD versus Kyrie. I think the second half of that is more of kind of like a fan-made narrative that maybe is kind of fun for us, but I think those two guys probably continue to be friends off the court. It just didn't work out for them in Brooklyn it's mostly Kyrie's fault. But
it's still interesting from a basketball perspective, but not necessarily from the dramatic perspective that fans want it to be.
Exactly.
I agree with that. And actually, to add to that, Draymond Green is another one I think you could bring up with Kevin Durant, where I think it's over two. Like, I guess here's the way I would think about it. Do I think Draymond Green and Kevin Durant will be teammates again? Probably not. Maybe there won't be any opportunity to, but if they have the choice in it, probably not. Do I think they like actively dislike or hate each other anymore? No, but I do think there was something there in the past. I mean, them screaming at each other while being on the same team was not a great look. And yes, that does happen with NBA players occasionally, but the first opportunity Kevin Durant had to leave that situation, he left. I mean, and that was a situation that was a really good basketball situation.
It's a pattern of behavior with Draymond Green that he does not admit fault in any situation. So he seems like kind of a difficult guy to get along with to me, who's gotten away with it for so many years because he has played an integral role on a dynasty. But even so, difficult guy to work with.
I don't know if this matters, but Kevin Durant has been ejected for getting into it with Patrick Beverley. So I wanted to put it on the list just for, continuity's sake. And admittedly, if you kind of look at a lot of these scraps, a lot of times where guys are getting into it with other players, Patrick Beverley just comes up a lot, along with Draymond. So that just kind of is what happens when it comes to these guys that are,
Is Bev still on the Bulls? Oh, no,
yes,
he's not.
So, yeah.
He signed a 1-year deal with the Sixers this year. Did you remember that? I had no idea.
I totally forgot.
1-year minimum deal with the Sixers. So are we hyping up the Suns-Sixers regular season games this year more than usual?
Oh, you sure? Well, I add one to the list. He's gotten into it multiple times with Embiid, KD, in the playoffs.
Sixers got a lot to prove this year before I think we take them seriously. It's funny, we covered all of the Western teams last year, so we didn't really get to give any of our takes on the Eastern teams. Maybe we do that at some point closer
Yeah, maybe
to the
we
season.
should do that for the Patreon episode.
Or a
week.
Patreon episode or something.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out at some point. But
Because I would love just to read through all the changes they made just to sort of refresh my memory.
I honestly, the episode we did last week, just to be meta about it, is like really helped me with refreshing my memory as
Me
well.
too,
I needed that. Otherwise, I would have had no idea who went where.
Yeah.
But anyway, just with the Eastern teams, like there's a certain level of respect that I'm giving Milwaukee and Boston that I'm not giving Philly for good reasons right now. So
Well, it's fair.
we'll
Embiid and Trey are just two players that KD has gotten into it with in the playoffs, but I don't think any of that is beyond the normal. We're playing in the playoffs and we're trying to rile each other up to get the best advantage. So it's funny because I'll read through the list that we have of guys: Charles Barkley, Russell Westbrook, Joel Embiid, Trey Young, Patrick Beverley, Draymond Green, and Kyrie. And of all those players, the only one I think we could say is a real beef with KD is the former Suns great Charles Barkley, right?
Yeah.
The rest of them are like, I don't think these are real.
He's mostly a KD that is a mild-mannered, easygoing demeanor. That's just how he's always been. He's about hoops, and I think players see that and they respect it. He's got like the smoothest jumper of all time, and I think players see that and respect it. You know, there's like they don't necessarily.
He's chill.
He is chill. You don't have to respect
He's a
everything
chill
about
guy.
KD. I'm sure there are still a lot of players who are butthurt about his move to the Warriors, but also it's been 7 years. Most of them have moved on.
Booker is intense. KD is chill. I think that's like there's a difference in their personalities there. It has nothing to do with how competitive both of them are, because I think both of them are equal levels of competitive. But I do think there is just a different way in how those each manifest, with Booker being maybe slightly more aggressive. I'm excited to move on to this one. I did some research on Bradley Beal, and I would like to get your reactions to some of these.
You're going to have to educate me on this one.
Because you probably have no idea, right? You have no idea, I'm guessing.
No idea. I don't even know where to start with what I think Beal's rivalries would be. I mean, some Eastern Conference teams that they've played in the playoffs, sure, but they haven't been in the playoffs in a while.
There is one I think you will remember.
Sure, okay.
And I'll get to that one in a minute, but I want to say he was ejected for fighting Draymond Green once, where they went to the ground and he literally tore Draymond Green's jersey off of him, essentially. Do you remember that season where...
I'm sorry, Bradley Beal did this?
Yeah. And it wasn't like a real fight. They were just kind of holding on to each other and they went to the ground.
I need to look up the video of this.
Do you remember that one season where for some reason NBA jerseys were getting torn all the time?
Wasn't it directly after they switched to Nike or something?
Yeah, I think so. It was that season where jerseys were getting torn a lot, and in this specific game, Bradley Beal just kind of ripped Draymond Green's jersey off of him after they were like fighting for a rebound because of some I'm sure it was chippiness that sort of developed over the course of a game. But he has not, Bradley Beal's been in the league 11 years. I could only find, and I can't find stats for this because I can't find any site that tracks it. I can only find 3 instances where he was ejected. Bradley
Okay,
Beal.
I was literally just about to look up his career ejections because 3 is not many to have in 11 years. How many?
Exactly.
How many
And
do you
one
think
of them-
Book has?
Yeah,
More than that.
Probably 5, 6.
Yeah.
More for sure in half as much time. No, well, not quite half, but So yeah, there's that. I don't know if that is a long-standing beef. If Beal still doesn't like Draymond Green as a result of that, but it is one that I found. And here's one that I thought was funny. We were talking about playoff matchups. The Wizards did make the playoffs in the Russell Westbrook year. Do you remember who they played in that first round?
The Russell Westbrook year was 2021. What year was this?
Yes.
No, I do not.
It was the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay.
And in the Philadelphia 76ers series...
Got into beef with Dario Saric? Is that what it was?
No. The most famous thing that happened in that 2021 playoffs, essentially besides of course, what happened with the Suns, but the big thing that was talked about a lot was Ben Simmons and just him completely falling apart over the course of those 2 rounds that they played.
Okay.
And one thing that happened in the 2021 playoffs that I found that I don't think is a beef, but it was a story that I had to tell you as soon as I found it, was that in the 2021 playoffs, Beal purposely fouled Ben Simmons at one point in the game in order to send him to the free throw line because Ben Simmons was struggling from the free throw line. And after that happened, Ben Simmons audibly said to Bradley Beal, "I'm tired of you MFers fouling me on purpose." And then he said, $5,000 says I make both. And Beal replied, "Want to make it 20,000?" And then Ben Simmons lined up to shoot the free throw, and guess what happened?
He missed both.
He missed the first one.
He missed the first one. Okay. I'm looking again at the stats now. The fall for Ben Simmons is so sad. Do you want me to just read you?
Well, the person that I was watching a video on basically attributed the rest of Ben Simmons' playoffs and how bad it went for him to that one moment. Because after that, he just was terrible.
I think we should run with that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think we should say that was his shoot it, you fucking midget, like Michael Jordan to Muggsy Bogues moment, which, by the way, supposedly never happened, but has been urban legend in NBA circles for 30 years. And I think, this is kind of more true than that. You want me to just read to you Ben Simmons's playoff free throw percentages in his 3 playoff runs?
Yeah.
So first time the Sixers make the playoffs in 2018, I guess he may have been like a second-year player at this point. I'd have to check. But he was a 21-year-old and shoots 71% from the free throw line. The second time he makes the playoffs, that dips down to 55%. So already pretty putrid, obviously even more so for a guard. And then that year that you're talking about there, he logged 12 games in their 2021 run, made it to the second round, and shot 34% from the free throw line, 25 of 73.
We'll have to find his percentage before and after that moment and see how much it actually did impact him, because we could find that moment and track it down and figure it out.
He was at 44% in the regular season for Brooklyn last year as well.
All right, you're going to love this one. One other time Bradley Beal was ejected was due to getting into it with Luka Doncic.
Love it.
And yeah, they got into it. He was ejected. I think Luka may have been ejected as well. The part that I found funny is I watched his post-game interview after that game, and he was asked about Luka Doncic, and he just said, that whole thing about, we're both competitive. It is what it is. He dapped me up, whatever. And the person talking to him said, "What do you think?" This was 3 years ago, so Luka pretty young. "What do you think about Luka Doncic? What do you think about him as a player?" And Bradley Beal said, "Well, I don't want to get into everything because I'll get in trouble with the refs, but he's very skilled." Which is just, I think, under the radar shade about Luka Doncic sort of
the players
using the refs.
The players all see it. The players aren't stupid. Like, everyone uses little tricks to their advantage, but some guys grift more than others, and that's fine if that's your game, but it's not going to ingratiate you among your fellow employees, your fellow colleagues, the players around the league, your coworkers, essentially, is what they are. So, I mean, guys like Harden, guys like Trey, guys like Luka, they're all very
unethical
skilled
players.
They're good at what they do, but there's a reason none of them are liked. There is a reason that Trae Young is sitting his butt at home right now, by the way, and not playing in friendlies for Team USA, who are about to embark for the FIBA World Cup in a couple of weeks. It is not because he's not skilled enough to be there. It's because he's not very well liked. And part of that is his play style, to be entirely honest.
This one I think you'll remember. And this is a former NBA player, Kent Bazemore. And you're probably thinking, why in the world would Bradley Beal have a beef with Kent Bazemore? And some people listening are going to remember it right away. But there was a season where Kent Bazemore played on the Warriors. You remember the season, of course. Maybe two.
Sure.
But for sure one. And he said in a post-game interview after a game where Steph had like a high number of points. By the way, the story in which Kent Bazemore said this, there was some talk about Steph Curry checking tweets at halftime. And then, do you remember this? And then going back into games and trying to prove the haters wrong or whatever. And Bazemore said something about how Steph does it so easily and that there's players out there hurting their hamstrings to keep up with Steph Curry. This was the season that Bradley Beal... This was the season that Bradley Beal averaged 31 points a game, I believe, is what he ended up with, but did hurt his hamstring in the middle of his best season ever. famously throwing his headband into the stands and looking really, really sad. But Beal replied directly to this on Twitter, and the first thing he said was that Kent Bazemore was lame, and then he said that Steph admitted to chasing Beal's stats, which is something that Steph did do, and then he tweeted at Kent Bazemore with an amazing gif of a clown coming out from behind a curtain and bowing. And yeah, so he doesn't like Kent Bazemore. I think if I had to like rank these guys when it comes to Beal, I think Kent Bazemore is probably the guy he hates the most here. Yeah.
He just called him lame. He didn't say anything else.
He said something like "you a lame."
You a lame. Like that is such an NBA tweet.
Yeah, he wanted to say more.
Yeah,
I think he wanted to say more, and he was holding back because it was, But yeah, you remember that.
I do remember that now that you mention it. That's very funny. It's a little corny too on the part of Brad. I wish he had gone even.
I think Brad Beal's a nice guy. Like I don't think he really gets in. Yeah.
You could do better. You could do better than you a lame though. I'm just saying. I hope we see some of that fire out of him this year. In all honesty, I really hope we do. Maybe more of it directed towards Luka. If it's going to be Book and Brad going after Luka, I'd love to see it, and I want them to bring their best.
Yeah. Last one for Brad Beal, John Wall. There was some talk by Wizards fans. I reached out to somebody who covers the Wizards to ask about this, and he asked Wizards fans, and they brought up John Wall because there was some animosity between the two of them before John Wall was traded, apparently, that I believe, based on my research, probably existed a little bit more on John Wall's side than Bradley Beal, and maybe had something to do with the fact that they essentially chose Brad Beal over John Wall. But it appears that it has since been squashed and that they are now close and friends again.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to this one other than that Wall had a chip on his shoulder about wanting to be the man in DC, and I think that was a human response that he had to that situation. So
for Beal, just to wrap it up, Draymond Green, Ben Simmons, Luka Doncic, Kent Bazemore. There's always some random guy here, and John Wall. And I think the only one for sure we know is a beef is Kent Bazemore. I have a feeling a lot of players don't like Luka Doncic, just to be frank.
And we know a lot of players don't like Draymond Green. So it's like that one, he might as well just be on any player you could think of. He's on there.
Exactly. List. Yeah. So. All right, next one, DeAndre Ayton. I have two people listed on this list. One, Patrick Beverley for pushing DeAndre Ayton over. Two, Monty Williams.
Well, I was thinking to myself, like, man, I can't really remember DA getting in. I've watched every DA game.
It's the only person we've ever seen him get into it with. Besides his own teammates, by the way. We can list his own teammates on there if we want to. But we know for sure Monty Williams.
Well, Monty really knew how to bring that competitive fire out of DA, at least.
Well, yeah, let's see if it happens when they play Detroit this year.
Yeah.
Who's going to guard him? Wiseman? He has an opportunity.
Hey, man, don't underrate Isaiah Stewart. Talk about a guy who's got...
Duren.
Yeah, Jalen Duren, but
he's supposedly looking good in those Team USA Select games.
Well, I'm not even talking about talent. You remember that Isaiah Stewart chasing after a LeBron fight from couple years ago? So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But no, I mean, look, the truth is, I don't think DA is really the type to get into brawls. We've never seen him.
No,
he's just not
honestly, I tried to look up more than one instance of him getting into it with any player, and there wasn't one.
He's not a physical. He's not a physical enforcer type. I think it would take a lot to get it out of him. But it is possible.
Well, even Beverly,
never say never.
Just kind of on the ground. It's hard to get it for for big giant guys, but even Beverly, he just kind of was on the ground for that whole interaction. But you know what? The best he played last season was the 3 weeks after that Patrick Beverly shove. So maybe we should be thanking Patrick Beverly. Ayton doesn't have much. Lastly, I know I had a huge list here. I warned you before we started this podcast.
You did, and I don't mind it one bit because I'm going down memory lane with you.
Drew Eubanks, I just want to point out.
This one is hilarious because I had no idea that he was a brawler.
He just seems like a guy who's has his elbows out a little too much, if you know what I mean, as a big man. But there's only two instances I wanted to bring up. One, it was a Talen Horton-Tucker foul where he got kind of pissed off and started shoving Talen Horton-Tucker, Anthony Davis, and Carmelo Anthony I don't think this is a beef. For the record, I don't know if he still holds any sort of grudge, which I don't think he does. But I did find it fun that an instance that I found on the initial Google search was against the Lakers. But the other one that I wanted to bring up was with a Phoenix Suns player named Damian Lee. Do you remember this happening last season?
This was against the Suns?
Yeah, Trailblazers.
This was Trailblazers Suns last year. I have no recollection. What happened?
Yeah, he kind of like body slammed Damian Lee, and then Damian Lee got up and shook his finger at him like a mom telling off their kid. And one of the funniest things that Damian Lee did. But I remember this, and I remember thinking that Drew Eubanks is kind of sneaky dirty.
Oh yeah,
when this happened.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he gives me like Andrew Bogut vibes.
Yeah, a little bit of that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way he uses those hips on some screens, he's going to do some damage.
He's going to level some guys, and I think Drew Eubanks might get some people mad at him more often than not. And the other thing with Drew Eubanks is he tries to dunk on you, and he's not afraid of getting dunked on, and that can kind of sometimes get people a little riled up as well.
That's really funny. So I got to look up a bunch of things after we get done recording here. Is that on YouTube or was it on Twitter or something? The clip between Eubanks and Lee. How'd you find it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I posted it initially. I couldn't find my clip, but it is on YouTube as well.
Okay,
you can find it, and because Lee goes down like a sack of potatoes, and jumps right up and wags his finger at him. And I think Lee ended up getting a technical in that game, which of course that's always what happens, right? It's a guy who gets up and goes at the guy that gets a tech. Here's one thing I thought was funny. Eric Gordon has been in the league for 14 years, I believe. Could not find a single time that he got into it with another player that I thought was worthy of this list. Isn't that amazing?
That's a little surprising. That's a little surprising, especially given some of the teams he was on. I mean, he was on peak Morey Ball Rockets in the peak of their rivalry against the Warriors. It's kind of incredible.
He's no nonsense.
He's a lover, not a fighter, evidently.
He's just, there's the one most famous clip you'll find if you look up Eric Gordon fight. Will be like Jalen Green and other Rockets players fighting each other, and Eric Gordon just sort of sitting there staring up into the distance while "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend" plays in the background. Sure. And that's the only thing I could find. I thought that was kind of amazing.
You could find some videos like that, old school videos of like Tyson Chandler in Suns huddles while Marcus Morris chokes out Archie Goodwin or something. I don't know, or probably PJ Tucker was the one who was in those huddles at the time in that era of Suns history too. So yeah, sometimes you just find yourself in a situation like that, and you think, God, I got to get myself the hell out of here. Don't blame him.
I'm disappointed I couldn't bring up Cameron Payne and LeBron James, because Cameron Payne is no longer on the Suns, and that's the funniest beef that exists in the history of the NBA. But outside that, I couldn't think of any more. Like KBD's not going to have any. Watanabe's not going to have any. These are guys who don't play a lot, are just trying to get their names like in the NBA. So other than that, the Suns they don't really have much. Really, it's Devin Booker. That's the guy with the most. And outside of that, there's really not much.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I could see some of these guys making a name for themselves in that space, though. Josh Okogie could make some enemies. Jordan Goodwin could make some enemies this year.
That's true.
I could see
that as well.
I don't know. I don't know enough about Goodwin's demeanor. I just know about the way he plays with a lot of intensity. But I don't know if he's really like a guy to get in your face and talk trash. I haven't seen his game close up. It would be cool.
That's all I got for beef. What do you think?
It's a lot of beef.
It's a lot of beef, and really, it's not that much.
It's
if you really break it down,
it's a lot of beef.
I mean, they don't like Luka. We know they don't like Luka. At least two of them.
I appreciate how much effort you put into finding all of this beef, but yes, also, I think a lot of it is just competition. Being an athlete, we don't understand. We're normal Joes. But these guys are hyper-competitive athletes, and a lot of times it's just doing their job. It's a little bit special when you get a true case of two players hating each other, as I believe is the case between Devin Booker and Luka Doncic. And again, just to reiterate why I'm looking forward so much to our battles against Dallas.
Look, as long as Booker can get a ring, then when we're in our 20th year of this podcast, we can talk about when Luka and Booker sat down on ESPN and had a conversation with each other and finally buried their beef. But yes, let's one more thing before we go, and this was an idea from Discord. Shout out Chris Dybel on Discord. The schedule is rumored to be released on the 17th-ish, so sometime mid next week. The schedule should be releasing. Now, what that means is sometime probably in about a week-ish, we will start getting some schedule leaks, and that tends to happen before the full schedule is leaked. That usually means, first game of the season. Christmas games are the other big ones, I think, that will be announced probably before the entire schedule leaks. And I thought now, and Chris thought now would be a good opportunity to talk about what we want to see for those big major dates that are coming up on the NBA calendar. Do you have any thoughts on either of those games?
Sure. Christmas is always a huge deal. It's an honor to be selected anytime you are. It's so much of just a cultural event that we talk about it every year in the NBA. I wouldn't mind a rematch against the Nuggets, but I would understand if they don't give us to that because maybe they'll give the Nuggets kind of their finals rematch or even like a Lakers Western Conference Finals rematch. I don't know. What do you think they're going to do with Denver?
It's a good. I think Denver. I think the Suns are going to play Denver either in one or two of those games. Not necessarily both, but one of them.
First of all, how well do you remember our Christmas game against Denver last year?
Well, I remember Booker being injured and then being sad, and then it going to overtime and Aaron Gordon killing Landry Shamet.
Well, we went to overtime. We lost by 3. Aaron Gordon was awesome. Jokic had 40, 15, and 15. Yeah. What I did not remember, though, that Landry Shamet was the leading scorer for the Suns in this game.
He was good. I remember him being good, yeah.
With 31 points. I remember
that was his last good game.
He had a good game like that at some point, but I didn't remember that it was this specific one.
I think that's his career high.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken. So
31 points, 6 assists, shot well from 3. Salute to you, Landry Shamet. This one goes out to you. It would be cool to get a rematch against them. If not them, Dallas is on my short list, again, to mention them for the 10 millionth time. But honestly, just anyone else who I kind of respect as a contender in the Western Conference, Golden State, Los Angeles. My only selfish request is that we don't get, and they're probably going to deny me this, but that we don't get the super, super late game that very few people tune into on the East Coast. And for me, I will watch, but is at 10:30 Eastern time. I would like to get the second to last game, which is more of a primetime slot. That would be nice.
Without a doubt, I think the first game will be on national TV for the Suns. Here's something that I think that we haven't talked about much, but I don't believe that Kevin Durant has played in San Francisco since he played on the Warriors at all. So if the NBA was smart and they wanted to get that one in a for sure game where Kevin Durant makes his first return to the Warriors since he played there, first game of the season would make the most sense at Golden State. Mm-hmm. Do I want that? Not necessarily, but I wouldn't mind watching that. It sounds kind of cool.
It's a tough arena to go into and win.
It's a tough game
anytime you're there, but
especially the crowd will be really locked in if it's Kevin Durant's first time there.
Yeah, I'm not backing down from any challenges this season. This team has the talent to take anyone down. If it's Golden State on the road, if it's Denver on the road, so be it. Come at us. One other team that I was just going to throw out an honorable mention to, there is a 100% chance that they don't select this as a primetime matchup because these two teams don't have a history. But I would like to construct a rivalry this year, fabricate a rivalry between the Suns and Celtics this year. I think
I love it.
This might be the year. We only play them twice a year.
Right.
But you have I saw all sorts of Celtics fans talking shit on Twitter the other day about how no one in their right mind would say that Devin Booker is better than Jason Tatum, even though if you go back just 2 months ago to when the Celtics were struggling in the playoffs and you listen to Boston saviors Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo talk about it on the Bill Simmons podcast, they were basically admitting at the time that they trust Devin Booker more in the playoffs than Jason Tatum. So not to mention the actual stats for each of their respective last playoff run, I think there is a decent amount of evidence there. We don't get to see them that often, but this might finally be the year where we can build something there if we put our minds to it.
And, it wouldn't be that surprising if halfway through the season, those teams were both favored to make the NBA Finals as
100%. But Boston is actually a team, again, to talk about the Eastern Conference, a team that gives me some pause, a team that does worry me a little bit in the sense that I have a lot of respect for their roster. They have some things, some kinks to work out, but yeah, they'll be dangerous.
One thing I want to mention, Tuesdays and Fridays until December will be group games for the in-season tournament, meaning the Suns will be playing teams within their own group on those days. At the beginning of the season, those games count towards whatever seeding there will be in that group. The teams that are in the Suns group are the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Trailblazers. They're all West teams because they're separated by conference. And that means that the Suns will play against those teams on either Tuesdays or Fridays, depending on when the season starts. It could start on a group day, especially for a league that's trying to promote this tournament. And if it does, it's going to be one of those teams, which I think in this case, the most intrigue would be the Lakers. Right? The Suns versus the Lakers. LeBron versus KD.
Followed by the Grizzlies. Jazz or Trailblazers would be very underwhelming. As an opener. So I don't think it'll be those two.
So I do think there is a chance if the season starts on a Tuesday or a Friday, Suns-Lakers will be that first game. So if I were the league and I was trying to set up the most intriguing matchups, I would do Warriors, first game of the season, Nuggets on Christmas Day. If the Suns don't play the Nuggets on Christmas Day, it's going to be like a team like the Warriors, right? Who else could it possibly be?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, with Dallas, they have the rivalry, but they don't actually deserve a Christmas game right now. Only 10 teams get to play on Christmas. In Dallas, they didn't even make the playoffs. They don't deserve that spot. So I think it would be Warriors.
There's no other teams, right?
I think it would be Warriors or Lakers, realistically.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if like OKC, I don't think they're going to give OKC.
I don't think OKC has earned that spot yet either. Need to make the playoffs first. I mean, it's going to be 5 Western teams and 5 Eastern teams, right?
Yeah,
probably.
I think so. Yeah.
Is that normally how they do it? Maybe 4 and 6.
I think so.
I guess if they split it. But so in the West, Denver, Phoenix, Lakers, Warriors. 5th spot probably goes to Memphis. Honestly, maybe New Orleans. Probably Memphis, if we're being real.
Yeah.
So that's 5 right there. Sorry, OKC.
Yep. I think you're probably right. Okay, cool. That's all we got. You got anything else before we go?
No, I don't think so. We'll be back in a couple days.
A definitive list of beef for the Suns. Yeah, we'll be back in a couple days on Patreon. If you want to hear an extra podcast per week, patreon.com/thetimeline, $6 a month for an extra podcast every week, $3 a month. If you want to join our Discord, you can join our Discord at any tier. Thank you everyone for listening. Back very, very soon.